All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the May Best Practice webinar. Our presentation today is titled Strategies for Youth Recruitment and Retention. You're going to hear a little bit from me this morning, and then I'm going to turn it over to our guest presenters. We have Nikki and Elena from Council Bluffs who will be presenting today, and then Megan from Youthport, who's not on the call yet. So I'm hoping that she joins shortly. And actually, I just got an email from her, so I'll go ahead and grab her in just a minute. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share the screen. All right. And we're actually going to start with a little bit of fun. So first thing I would like people to do is just grab a sheet of scratch paper, Post-it note, whatever. And you're going to number this 1 through 6. So as soon as everybody gets that done, I'll kind of explain what we're going to do today. All right. So the next page I'm going to show you is going to have a cross-section cut of a picture of a candy bar. And I'm going to have you all take a guess to tell me if you can correctly identify your candy bars here. So we'll review the answers in just a moment, but is everybody ready to play? Maybe give me a thumbs up. All right, Jenna, you want to have your son help you on this one? That might be a good activity for him. All right, here we go. So you see I have 6 pictures on there. Take a look, tell me what you think each of those are. Going to give you about another 30 seconds or so here. And if any of you are like me, I didn't have breakfast this morning, so I'm thinking any of these look good right now. All right. So I'll have you put your pencils down. Serious proctoring of tests this morning. Anybody want to take a guess at number 1? I'll just either unmute or pop it in the chat. What do you guys think number 1?
Milky Way.
Milky Way.
Milky Way.
Milky Way.
Okay.
Mustard.
All right. All right. So how about number 2? Let me see what you think about that one.
Butterfinger.
Mars. Oh, I thought of Mars, but you're right. Butterfinger looks right.
Butterfinger, okay, and Mars. We'll see who's right there. Anybody got an idea about number 3?
Payday.
Payday.
I thought salted nut roll, but
Yeah. Okay.
I thought salted nut roll too, but I think it's payday now.
Okay. Number 4.
Snickers.
Snickers.
That one seems to be like probably the easiest one, right? You know. So okay. Oh well, actually, maybe number 5 is the
I think
easiest.
5.
Kit Kat.
Yeah.
Kit Kat.
Kit Kat. Okay. And then what about 6?
A Twix.
Twix.
All right. Let's see if you guys are right here. Number 1 was the 3 Musketeers. Did anybody have that one?
Yes, Billy did. I did.
I want to go back to number 2. Number 2 is not a Butterfinger.
I agree. Looks like it's toffee. That was misleading.
So, well, it is a Butterfinger, sorry. Number 3 is a Payday, and I'm so impressed you guys got that one because I love Payday bars, but I feel like they're kind of the forgotten candy bar, right? So,
Yeah.
Number 4 was the Snickers, 5 Kit Kat, and 6 was Twix. So, how many of those did you get right? Put your number in the chat for me. All right, I got 2, 4, 5, 4. I have to call out Emily here. She says, I know, all I know is I'm embarrassed that I knew all of these right away. So that's great. All right. 4, 5. Yeah, you guys are doing really well today. Good job. Good job. So, well, again, just kind of a fun little way to start off the meeting today. I know if any of you are like me, you get kind of zoomed out sometimes. So it's just kind of fun to start with a little bit of a brain engagement here. So thank you for humoring me. Okay, so our goals for our call today is we want to identify the importance of regular youth attendance through our presentation. We'll talk through the requirements of your grant, and then we're going to really turn it over to our guest presenters today to talk about strategies for recruitment and retention from the field, and then of course answer any questions that you might have. So again, you guys know how we do these things. You've been on enough calls now. If you have questions, feel free to unmute. You can drop your comments into the chat. Grab me if you need anything, and I will attempt to make this just a little bit bigger on your screen. Is that visually okay for people? Do we need it bigger? Let me grab the chat here. Cassie says it's fine. Okay. All right. If it changes, let me know. So the first thing that I'd like to just chat through with everyone is what the U.S. Department of Education says about youth attendance and recruitment. So they actually recommend that elementary age youth attend a program a minimum of 3 days a week to get that potential impact. But the more attended days, the better. Now in Iowa, at this exact moment in time, and of course this will change with our new APR GEPRA measures, of course, but at this exact moment in time, we know that you have a 60-hour per month requirement. So we obviously exceed this as a best practice here in Iowa. After-school programs support social, emotional, cognitive, academic development. They reduce those risky behaviors. They promote good physical health, provide that safe and caring environment. Everything that you guys do every single day is endorsed, promoted, celebrated by the U.S. Department of Education. And then we also know that youth who attend those out-of-school time programs and participate regularly have improved social and emotional competencies that are put on display by things like that pro-social behavior, motivation, they concentrate better, and they have a higher sense of self-worth. And again, we know this is because out-of-school time programs, the high-quality out-of-school time program is going to do a lot more for a child past just improving reading or math skills. Now, kind of switching it up, and because we have Vic on the call today, you can certainly hop in here anytime you'd like, Mr. Jarris. But according to the Iowa Department of Education, our local data tells us that when you have a well-designed program who has high attendance expectations, good things happen, right? So again, 21st Century recommends 60 contact hours per month. That's going to change a little bit in how we report when we have the new GEPRA measures. And keep in mind that our June best practice webinar will focus on those GEPRA measures. So we know that the more contact we have with the youth, when they come, they are engaged, they're doing positive things, they're making good improvements. And we also know that an out-of-school time program can have a really positive effect on school day attendance. So kids who love their out-of-school time program will want to come to school so that they can attend the out-of-school time program. And that's extremely important to youth outcomes, both academically and then personally or socially as well. Youth attendance is one of the 4 program success areas identified by 21st Century. So those are reading, math, behaviors, and attendance. So, and then finally, it's part of your site monitoring agreement. So when you got the grant, you agreed to work towards your attendance goals, and that is a requirement of the grant then.
Crystal.
Yeah.
Now is a good time for me to chime in, talking about the requirements. You know, those grant attendance goals, we haven't enforced them now for 2 years because of the COVID. But now, come September, we're going to be looking at that very closely. And you know what's going to happen if you're not meeting your attendance goals, your contract for the next year will be reduced because of, you know, the amount of kids you do not have. So let me give you a strategy that I guarantee will work. I used to do it myself as a teacher, and that would be have a mini conference with all the kids. And you don't have to do it all in one day, but sit down and talk with each and every one of the kids in your program. Ask them how they're doing. Some of these kids that may have had a lot of traumatic experience, they may need some additional supports, and that's how you'll find out. Ask them if they like the activities. Ask them if they're making friends. If they, you know, if they, some of their friends moved, maybe you want to kind of introduce them to some other kids in the program. And we want to go above and beyond to support these children because they've had a rough time. You know, child development is predicated upon the relationships that they form by making friends. And so, you know, we've got to step in there and do everything we can to help them. So I've said my 2 cents for right now. Continue on, Crystal. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. I lost audio for a moment, but it sounds like everybody else could hear fine. So, okay. So just want to kind of go over this slide very quickly. 21st Century actually has recommendations for recruitment language, and this is actually found in the RFP. So as you applied and as you continue to work through your grant, you will notice, sorry folks, that there was language in there about engaging recruitment strategies to target those high poverty at-risk students, especially those with achievement gap, where we talk about transportation strategies to enable sufficient participation. I know several of you run busing programs or maybe even a van or something like that. Policies in place to address chronic absenteeism, partnerships to assist with recruitment, input from school day personnel to target recruitment efforts, and last but not least, communicating with parents. Sorry, I'm trying to get my slide to advance and it won't. Okay, so again, Vic just had kind of a general summary of our next slide here and talking about how the pandemic really has kind of messed things up for attendance these last couple of years. But then moving forward, we will be encouraging you to really reach out and re-engage with those youth so that attendance can continue to be increased or supported in the way that it needs to be supported with your grant. What you see on your screen right now is simply the attendance goals that were submitted in your grant application. So again, year 1, 70%, year 3, 80%. And again, Vic is here for you. The Iowa After School Alliance is here for you. If you're having trouble meeting your goals, please reach out. It is so much easier, and I've heard Vic say this a million times, right? It's so much easier to start addressing the issue sooner rather than later. When you get to a point where later comes and you're like, you know, there's 2 months left of your grant in a fiscal year and you're like, yikes, what do I do now? It's so much harder to make those corrections. Keep that
Crystal.
line of communication open with us. Yes, Vic.
Yeah, we've got Jenna on the call, and she could share what happened with some of her sites a couple years ago where she had just started with some middle schools and they had an attendance problem. And Jenna did the right thing by calling me early And within a couple of months, we turned the situation around. Jenna, you want to comment on that? Did that really happen, or am I just making it up?
It really happened, Vic. Yeah, we did. At our middle school programs, we, decided to start something new. It was new to our community. It was new to Beyond the Bell doing middle schools. And, I think we had this idea or this thought of how it was going to go, and it looked really great on paper, but then in real life, it didn't really work out that way. And so we did. We had talked to kids who actually came to Sioux City and kind of sat down with us and walked us through a bunch of strategies. We did a lot of, kind of like you already said, like in-depth conversation with the kids directly. What do you want to see happen? What do you think you could do to help get your friends interested in our program? And then also talked with the parents and kind of got their feedback on what a middle school program looks like in comparison to an elementary program. And one of the biggest things that we found, which was so simple, was, we were calling it Beyond the Bell because that's who we are. And these middle schoolers said, well, nobody wants to come to Beyond the Bell because that's where, my baby sister goes or my little brother or whatever. And so it seems like it's like for babies. So nobody wants to go there. So we simply just said, okay, we're going to change it to the Champs program. And like Vic said, within 2 months, we were begging kids to come and getting like 10 kids after school to, over 100 at every site just by changing the name. So it was a good eye-opening experience to have Vic come and help us do that.
Well, Jenna, we did a little more than just change the name. We empowered the kids. We let them pick some of the enrichment activities that they wanted. For example, they wanted to do some weight training and they wanted to play soccer. And those things were things that were added. And there were some other classes that were added based on what the kids wanted to do. And that helped a lot. And plus, we asked them, the kids themselves, to start recruiting other kids to the program.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. That's a great example. And again, we're going to hear some additional strategies from our guests in just a moment. But a couple other things I want to point out on this slide regarding your grant requirement is you are required to track your total enrollment and average daily attendance. Those are reported on your financial claims. So make sure that you're doing those. And then just that reminder that those non-school days, so a weather closure or a pandemic, those do not count against you. So your attendance is reported in several documents, the local evaluation, the APR, your quarterly claims. Attendance is like everywhere, right? So you'll want to make sure that you are doing those in the best way and easiest way for tracking as possible. I already kind of briefly mentioned this. Attendance reported in the APR system, and those that are going to be switched and reported a little bit differently now. Right now it's regular attendance, meaning that a student has to meet a certain threshold of attendance to be put into the APR system. This is going to change moving forward. And again, our June best practice webinar is going to go over how you will be reporting your new model. So just be thinking about ahead of time how you currently report and then how you might have to change your reporting requirement later. For those of you who are gearing up for summer, you will want to also have in the back of your mind that for that regular attendance, you'll need to report kids who have attended 30 days or more. So it's always a good idea to plan more than 30 days of summer programming. That way, if you do have that unexpected illness or a family has to go out of town or something of that nature, that child can still have that exposure to those 30 days. When it comes to youth retention, the three biggest reasons why youth continue to attend a program is interest. So is it fun? Is it engaging? Is the program a quality program? Meaning, do they like the staff? Do they fit in there? Does the program have a strong framework or strong intentionality behind it? And then last but not least, strong partnerships. So the relationships that youth build, the experiences they have, and the stuff that comes with that. So be thinking about those as well as we now kind of gear towards listening to our presenters from the field. So up first is going to be Council Bluffs. So Nikki and Elena, I'm going to mute myself now, but I will gladly advance the slides at your direction. So I would encourage the two of you to unmute, and I'll just let you take it away.
Thanks, Crystal. Good morning. I'm Nikki Clausen. I'm the program director with the Council Bluffs School District. And our first topic is just building partnerships. And Elena and I have been in Council Bluffs School District now for 6 years together, and we both started as coordinators. So we've got to see a lot of these programs build from the bottom up. It's actually pretty awesome to see. But we couldn't do it without our partners. And I think that is basically where we are really fortunate. We have probably over 100 partners that we've worked with over the last 5 to 7 years. And I have a list of some of them on the left-hand side. And I was telling Elaine, I think we're just lucky because we are in an area where we not only have Council Bluffs community partners, but we're very close to Omaha. In Crescent, we have Hitchcock that comes from Crescent, and we have Fontenelle Forest that comes from Bellevue. But over the last 6 years, we've really gotten to know them on a personal level, which I think helps them get our families engaged. And we just have some really strong partners. And so on the left-hand side there, I just put some of the ones that we've used a lot this year. And I do have to give them kudos for this year because obviously with COVID, it hasn't been easy, but they haven't let us down. They've been there the entire year for us, and we've had programming since day one. So even when we were in hybrid, they all were willing to do programs for us, which has been awesome. You can go to the next slide. What?
Okay, sorry, we're in the same room and we're trying to sort out mics so that we wouldn't have echo. So it was oddly more complicated to present than maybe normally. But this is just a slide of one of our community partners. We would take our kids going fishing, and just a quick summary of what a community partner is, which we all know. So Crystal, if you want to go one more slide ahead. And this is kind of, I heard mentioned from Vic about, and Jenna also, about just having student input and the difference that makes in kids' involvement, which is something that we've used quite a bit. My experience is primarily in middle school and high school as a program coordinator before this. So that's something I learned quickly. The buy-in has to come from them in order for them to want to keep attending something. So we would have little handouts, and then we also have an online Google form that we send out when we send out our beginning of the year information. Parents get it, teachers get it, and students get it. And that's where they can always kind of offer their suggestions for what kind of a club they want to see. If they've noticed that we have some gaps in the programming from their interests and they want to stay, but they would like to stay if we had X, Y, Z. That's where they can drop those. And then again, we share that same back end sheet with our school staff, so that they have a little bit of an idea too of what students think is lacking in the school and how they can possibly fill in those gaps too. So that's been really successful for us. We'll then also use that with our student advisory group that will meet kind of quarterly, and they'll get to go through and sift through if they agree that they think kids would be interested, and things like that. Because sometimes you'll get some passionate kids, but they have a really, really niche activity, which isn't quite gonna serve everyone. So we have to kind of find a way to broaden that to group in their interests, but also maybe gather some more kids for the activity. So that's been big for us. It also stems from kids being in elementary and having experiences from our clubs, community partners who maybe aren't in the high school yet. And that reminds me that we should talk to those partners about maybe a way to grow their program and offer something that's more fitting to the age level that the kids are at now, because they connected with it when they were in elementary or something like that. So that is one area of our retention we work through. So if you want to go one more slide, Crystal.
Thanks. Okay, and then on to family engagement. This is probably an area that I closely have worked with. Starting as an elementary program coordinator, this was something that was put on my plate that I really, really liked. I think it helps when you have kids that are about the age that you work with. And so it was kind of fun to kind of plan these fun events for our families. So these are some examples of just what we've done prior to COVID, and then also the things that we tried to do this year with the obstacle of not a lot of in-person events. So at the top, I just put some of the things that we've done probably the last 3 to 5 years. And one of them, we partner really closely with the Children's Museum in Omaha, and we rent that out and let all of our families come for a couple hours and go through that for free. And then the Durham, we always do around Christmas because I don't know if you're familiar with the Durham, but they always have a really big Christmas tree that they bring in from somewhere around the local Omaha area. And then they decorate it and they put it up that first Tuesday in November. And so then there's Santa. So our families get to come and get their pictures taken, but the Durham is a really cool place to tour as well. And then we closely are with Fontenelle Forest, and we've always done a night where they can go out and hike and take a tour. So that was probably the last couple years. And then this year, we actually had 2 new coordinators start. So this was really fun to try to see some new ideas and work around the in-person. But we just put together kits and we gave out kits to families once a quarter. So in fall, we did pumpkins and we did books. And then in the winter, we partnered with Eileen's Cookies, and each family got a decorating kit. And then this winter and spring, we did kind of like a movie night, but we included some math and card games in there. And then we just held our first in-person family event last week, and it was pretty awesome. We went to a park, and Hitchcock Nature Center came, and they did little activities with them where the families learned about trees. And we actually had quite a few people. We had almost 100 people come, and that was really good to see. Mask free, get outside. I think everybody is just ready for that. And so we're already gearing towards fall and just figuring out like what are some things that we can really bring this back and get our families together more in person. But again, we couldn't do that without any of our partners. So we really rely on them quite a bit.
All right, we do have a question from Jennifer for our Council Bluffs presenters. So does your program fund those events, or do the community partners provide that funding for you?
So I would say both. I would say it depends on what we're doing for the event. For example, with Hitchcock, all we had to pay for was the staff. They gave out trees for free. Those were something that were donated to them. So it really just depends on who we go with, but the majority of the time we are paying for it. Depending on our relationship, we can get a discount with them. But yeah, I think that it just depends on what we're doing.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions for Nikki or Elena? Okay, so with that being said, oh, sorry, I had something in the chat. All right, thank you. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Megan with Youthport, which is located in Cedar Rapids. So Megan, I'll have you kind of maybe do an introduction for yourself here, and then you can take it away.
All right, my name's Megan. I'm the project director at Youthport in Cedar Rapids. So Youthport is a community partnership between Boys and Girls Club, YPN, and Tanager Place. And so we are at 2 sites here in Cedar Rapids, Boys and Girls Club sites. And so we use for our recruitment word of mouth. We are well known at both of our sites. We have a wait list. We had a wait list during COVID as well. Kids just want to join our program. Kids who are in our program currently are always talking about the fun things we get to do. So that has definitely been a help to spread what we're doing. Teacher referrals, and then between the three organizations, we take referrals from like Tanager Place, and YPN can refer to our program at Boys and Girls Club if they have students who attend the schools that we are in. So we have a good referral system between all three organizations. And then our families, we have kept our kids from kindergarten to fifth grade. And so we just get their younger siblings. And so we have really good relationships with our families. And we've had the kids since kindergarten. So we have just built that relationship, and they know our expectations and what we expect of the kids and attendance as well. For our retention, we have, before pre-COVID, our enrichments, we offered at least 20 enrichments throughout, and our partnerships, since we are community-based, we also had other partnerships that volunteered and came in and brought different activities for our kids. And then we are able to offer dinner every night at both of our sites, a full meal through our school district. And then staff, we have had a great staff. We keep them all. And so they have also actually been with our kids since kindergarten. If they started then, we don't do too much turnover with our staff, so we're lucky there. And then just field trips. Most of them are during summer, but we are able to sometimes take them places during the school year, to places in the community to get them out and involved there. If you want to go to the next slide, Crystal. So this is just our flyer for one of our sites for summer. We weren't able to do summer programming last year, but we are able to do a program this year. And we're looking to be able to be at full capacity again. And so we just offer, we're going to do kindergarten actually all the way through middle school. And so our older kids have been previous kids that we've had in elementary. And so they are coming back for the summer. And so we use them also for some reading literacy programs to read to our younger kids. So they're also getting some academics in there over the summer as well.
All right, thank you, Megan.
I have a question.
I was just going to open the floor for questions, and if there are other sites on who would like to share some additional strategies that you have worked on, we'd love to hear them.
Well, actually, it's more of what I observed when I was visiting Youthport, and it's a really good retention strategy. I saw the kids were very anxious to get that full meal every night, and that's reflected in your attendance. You had really outstanding attendance, and I think a lot of times we don't think that, you know, it makes a difference, but when you've got kids in poverty, they're hungry, and when they know they're going to get a meal every day, that's a powerful thing for student retention. So we don't want to forget about that. It's not academic, but it's certainly part of, you know, taking care of the whole child.
Yeah, absolutely. So what other questions or what strategies do we have that other people have tried and you found really successful at your places? We'd love to hear those. Or I should also say too, if there's something that you're struggling with, if you would like to be brave enough to bring that up, perhaps we can help you brainstorm as a team to come up with some solutions. No questions for our friends from Council Bluffs or Youthport? All right. Well, Vic just popped something into the chat. This is a classic. It has elements of social. Okay.
And it again deals with student retention. If you've ever heard of Harry Wong and the First Days of School, it's been around for so long, you can find it online for like $4 used. But almost every school has it. They've bought it for professional development. There's been millions and millions of these copies of this book. And you know what? It works. I use this in my classroom, and it helped me be very successful. Now, the social emotional elements are when you develop these procedures and you start giving out jobs for the kids, they feel included as part of a group. And that's going to be huge because they were all alone at home and now they're coming back and they may not feel part of the group anymore. So these procedures that Harry talks about are going to be huge for you to make these kids feel included and that they're important as part of the after school program. A simple thing like lunchtime, snack time, passing out the milk. Instead of having an adult do that, make that a job and have rotated around so the kids take turns passing that out. That's huge for building their self-esteem. I used to use this with alternative kids in the high school. Everybody had a job and they'd rotate. And, they were really proud to be, helping out. That can work wonders for you in the after school program and start to get the kids feeling good about themselves. It's something we can try at very low cost. So I want to throw that out there for you. Uh-oh, I lost Crystal.
I see her.
Yeah, I've said she's having problems with her mic. Does anyone have any questions? Now's, you can go ahead and, or just you have something to share. I know Oak Ridge did a fantastic job during the pandemic. They were actually getting new partners in to help provide food for the kids. And I think that John has said he would do a presentation in the fall, and that's going to be good. These best practices help make our programs better all the time because no one knows everything. And, sometimes reading through the books and the literature, it's just too much, but taking time out and listening to folks that are doing the same thing you're doing can, make that light bulb go on and you say, yeah, we're doing something similar, but we can tweak it a little bit and improve it. So that's why these best practice meetings are so important.
Yes. All right. I think I'm back here. I don't know
Yes.
what's happening, except I do know that when the derecho went through last August, it did mess up some cell phone towers. So I'm thinking that maybe a little bit of my problem this morning. But all right. Any other questions or comments, strategies that people have tried? All right. So I think I'll go ahead and stop recording.